even when we have groups of individuals who are all like 700 plus pound pullers, we still end up going right back to drilling the initial setup, its fundamental kind of form. What's up guys, welcome back to the Elite FTS YouTube channel. Today, Noah and I are going to be shooting a video that is probably long overdue. In fact, this came up in one of our meetings. We were like, I can't believe we don't have a video on this. And it's basically going to be how to set up and execute the deadlift. Now, when we run our training events here, like the train your ass off events, it's funny how even when we have groups of individuals who are all like 700 plus pound pullers, and this does happen, we still end up going right back to drilling the initial setup in like the most, I don't want to say basics, that makes it sound wrong, but like in its fundamental kind of form. And inevitably things improve because of that. So we wanted to kind of make a video that really goes through that process that we do at these training events so that you can all benefit from it as well. But one thing that I want to kind of say before we go into this, just so it comes across the right way, is this is kind of a blueprint that we're using in these training events, and thus far it's worked very well, but it by no means means that you must absolutely deadlift this way or teach it this way, or someone who does things differently to this are doing it wrong. As always, there's going to be individualization that comes in here, and a lot of the time, and this has come up a lot when me and Dave are kind of coaching in the same space, a lot of the time when it sounds like we're saying different things, we're actually saying the same thing, just in very different ways. And when it kind of boils down to it, like what's the end goal that you were trying to achieve here? And Dave might say whatever it is. I'll be like, oh, so we're actually talking about the same thing and just using different language. So I just want to make sure this comes across in the right way, and that if you're a little bit lost with your deadlift, or you think that your setup and your execution could be improved, absolutely go through this blueprint, give it a go. There's going to be some stuff that's useful for you, and then maybe some stuff that you discard, and that's exactly how it should be. So we really hope that this is useful, and get used to Noah being on camera, because there's going to be a whole series coming now where we're going to be doing all sorts of stuff with him to get him on the other side of the camera more. Enjoy. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Now, before we get started, to get our excuse in at the start, it's 85 degrees in the gym. At least right now, it's probably going to go up. So Noah looks like he's sweating a lot for lifting 135. It's very hot in here. Okay, so as always, first thing we want to do is let's just see what you're doing now. Right? And if your deadlift is perfect at the start, this is going to be the world's shortest tutorial. And we can just go home, right?
Definitely not going to be perfect. All right. Let's see.
So give us like one or two more, so we get a chance to see what's going on.
That one didn't feel good.
That's fine. Okay, just stand there for me. So what we're seeing here is pretty common, right? So first off, you're over squatting, dropping the hips too low, whatever you want to call it, right? For you, you're always going to kind of be pulled that way. If you're like, I mean, your femurs are like this long, right? And your torso is like, you have the squatter's build, right? So you're going to be very anterior chain quad dominant. You've got this long torso, which is going to be a weak point for you, which I know Dave has highlighted. Posterior chain is going to be relatively weak. So your motivation is always going to be, how can I get my quads more into this? Yeah?
Yeah.
So what we saw was you starting in a reasonable position and then dropping the hips too low, right? So what I want you to do is do what you just did, and then after you drop your butt down in the same way that you just were, just stop. Don't actually lift the bar off the floor.
All right. Okay.
Okay, just as you were, right up until you're about to pull it off the floor. Okay, there. So if we stop right there, what we can see is when you drop your hips down lower, your shins will move forward, okay?
Yeah.
And that's going to push the bar forward of your center of gravity, right? And then when you do go to push, which you don't have to do right now, all that'll happen is the hips will just shoot straight back out, okay? So you basically create range of motion that doesn't actually move the bar anywhere. And like this is a common misconception a lot of people get from like watching like the pro strongmen and stuff lift, right? Because they'll drop their butt super low, right? That's mainly for them as a way of getting into a start position that accommodates their build, for want of a better way of putting it, right? So they kind of drop their butt down, lean back. But if you look at the point when the bar actually breaks off the floor, they're going to be in the same position, give or take, that we're going to talk about today. So what makes you want to drop your butt down like that?
Trying to not use my back, because that's how I've normally used it before
Okay.
really learning how to do it correctly. I'd
Sure.
be too far forward and just kind of like drag it up, and not as much of a a hinge, I guess. So I think maybe that's why I'm getting low, so I can try to do the hinge, which we're working on, but
no, that's fine. Now,
it's hard.
When we're doing a straight bar, like a lot of this stuff gets like completely removed if we were to put you on a trap bar, right? And the reason for that is when we're using a straight bar, we have to navigate your knees. So just go down and set up for me in your normal manner. It doesn't matter whether it's correct or optimal, it doesn't matter, right? So if you look at where Noah is now, I know some of this will seem obvious, but it'll become more important as we go on. Where are your knees relative to the bar, right? They're in front of the bar.
Yep.
Right? Your shins are angled forward as they should be. They're too far forward, but it's irrelevant for now. So like if we want to lift that bar up, the knees have to get out the way.
Yep.
Right? Now let me just show you something. If you can come and stand where I am. So there has to be a mechanism to get the shins back and the knees back so the bar can go straight up, right? Now the problem is that we think of the straight bar deadlift as a hip hinge, which it kind of is, but also kind of isn't because it's two phases, right? Now, if I were to set up, and again, whether the setup is optimal is kind of irrelevant for now, but if I'm here and my knees are over the bar, right? If I only extend the hips, I'm like, okay, a deadlift is a hip hinge, let's use the hip. So I'm just gonna extend my hip from this position. What's the problem with this picture?
Kind of went out.
Yeah, it has to go out, and how do I get the bar around my knee then?
Further back?
Like the hip would have to come this way,
yeah.
Right? So like, but if I'm extending the hips are going that way. So like it can't be use your hips to get the bar off the floor because then you end up in this absolutely horrible position, right? And a lot of the time people get stuck in the deadlift just below the knee, not because something's weak, but because they don't get the knees far back enough. And then you're in this position where you somehow have to like curve the bar forward, but we're going to address that in a sec. So let's get you back over the bar. Okay. So first thing I want to do is just talk about your stance, which doesn't look inherently wrong or bad right now. Okay. But let's just step back from the bar for me. Now, if you were, and you know, this works for many, if you were going to do a vertical jump on the spot as high as you can, like in a test, where would you put your feet?
Probably like
about there.
That.
So like the reason that cue can work is because if you say jump as high as you can, you kind of intrinsically know where you can put the most force straight up, which is kind of what we're trying to do here. So like vertical jump stance is usually like a good starting point, if nothing else. Now the exception to that rule might be people who are a bit thicker around the middle, right? Like that might not give you enough room to get your torso between your legs, right? Which again, if you look at a lot of the pro strongmen and stuff, they end up being very wide for that reason, okay? But let's go with that for now. So wherever your vertical jump stance is, we're gonna use that. I would say it's probably a little bit too wide, but we'll start with that, okay? And the other good guideline for most is going to be hip width. Okay, now,
all right.
Step up to the bar for me. So goal number one, I'm going to go through like how to hopefully get you setting up like flawlessly every time. That's our kind of goal with this blueprint, okay? So the first thing that we need to set is getting the bar over your midfoot and kind of anchoring that position, right? Because that's where we're going to be able to apply the most force and the bar is going to be the easiest to move. So for you, midfoot, you know, it's going to be give or take kind of like where this writing is here.
Yeah.
And again, this might sound silly, but we've had this. When we say midfoot, it's important to remember that like midfoot is not the midpoint between this and this, because that's what you can see. Midfoot is this, halfway between these two, right? Your foot goes all the way back. So first off, what I want you to do is just set up so that when you look down, the bar is directly over that point. Let's start with that.
Yeah, it's there.
For me, well, I'm looking at you from the side and I would say you're too far away for that.
Too far back?
Yes, so get a little bit closer. Tiniest bit closer. I know, and it's closer than you think. Okay, let's go with that. That's good for now. Let's see how we go from now. So we've created a desirable start position between the feet and the bar. So basically, as we set this structure up, the goal is like we don't want to change any other parts of the structure. So the goal is now don't move your feet and don't let the bar move. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do now is set the knee angle, which means just bend your knee until your shin touches the bar. That's it. Right, yep. So when we do that, we don't want the bar to roll out in front, because remember, that means it wouldn't be over midfoot anymore. So we're just going to establish that contact point. So bend the knee, shin touches the bar. That shin contact that you have now needs to be maintained for your entire setup. Okay, so that doesn't go away when you do the next section. And the next section is, now that you've done that, hip hinge until you can reach the bar. Do you need to do under-over grip to grip 135?
No.
No, okay. Let's go double over then.
Dave's just been trying to get me to.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, we can just do double.
For the purpose of today.
Yeah.
And stop there. How does that feel compared to where you were?
I feel like my knees are less over the bar.
That's correct.
Good. Feels fine.
Okay,
Butt
so
would be high, or my back.
yes, it is high. Now, again, so this is better. This is more of a deadlift start position, okay? Just come up from that position for me. So people worry about like hip height and all this type of thing, like am I setting them too low or too high? If you do this, they're in the right position, because the hip height that you need, obviously it's going to be dependent on your stance, your proportions, all this stuff, right? But if the bar is over your midfoot and your shin's over the bar and you've hinged down, that's you done. So it takes a lot of that thinking out of it, right? So now we've got less forward knee travel, which is good, and the hips are further back. So basically we're turning it into a deadlift as opposed to a squat.
Yeah.
Right, okay? Now, I suppose what we should say for those who are watching that maybe do like Olympic lifting, this is totally different to how you'd set up for like a clean or a snatch deadlift, where you would purposely set the hips lower and all this type of thing. But we're going to assume you're deadlifting for the sake of maximal strength, powerlifting, whatever. Okay, right. So common fault here in this, and everyone does this wrong, so I want you to do it wrong so that people can see what normally happens when we do this. You set the knees so the shins are against the bar, and then when you say to people reach down and grab the bar, instead of hinging, they just bend over. So go ahead and do that for me. Just like bend over and grab the bar, right? And they just kind of do this, and they're like, this feels awful. It's like, well, yeah, obviously Noah's kind of exaggerated it on purpose here, right? But the point is, if we come back up, once he's set the knee, the goal is to hinge down to the bar. So like Noah would kind of to imagine that like he's already got the barbell in his hands, and let's say he's going to do like a Romanian deadlift, right? How would you lower a Romanian deadlift? That's how you go down to the bar. And then when you do that, it's not reach for the bar, because then when he thinks reach for the bar, all of this kind of like rounds, right? Because he's like, I just need to get to the bar. Instead, it's hinge well until your hands can conveniently just wrap around the bar. And I want you to go down there and just get in that start position and just build up like 50% tension compared to what you would do to actually lift a deadlift. Okay, now, if you're happy with that, I want you to lift from there for now. Just whenever you feel ready. A little bit better. You did drop the hips. That's fine. Step away. And again, even when we're coaching like 800-pound pullers, when we're doing the training events and we tell them to do this for like weeks after their training, every rep, step away, step back up, midfoot, knee, hip, go, right? So same, go for it. So get it under your midfoot, which for you is a bit closer than you think, let's put it that way. Then we bend the knees till we get the contact with the shin. We hinge down. And now, let's see if we can break it off the floor without dropping your butt any lower. There. Okay, so we didn't have to move as far. Because you think every time you drop your butt down, your knees go that way. That's just further the knees have to travel back this way so the bar can go up. So that's getting better.
Yeah.
Now, when you're in that bottom position, the most kind of common thing people will do will be to arch their chest up, right? Because they feel like avoiding rounding is the most important thing, right? But usually arching this up doesn't necessarily change this, but also then a lot of the times, again, we'll see people either deadlifting like that or overarch. Neither of them are particularly good, okay? So now what I want you to do when you go down is just add in, before you do that pull, imagine your spine, crown of your head, and your tailbone, pull them apart. So just don't think arch, don't think round, just longer. The goal is to make yourself as long as, which you already have a very long spine and torso, I know, but that's the goal, because that's going to get us towards that neutral alignment that we want, which is where your posterior chain, everything else, including your abs, is going to be strongest, okay? So try that again for me. So again, just to keep reiterating so people cannot forget, midfoot, shin to the bar, a decent hinge, and now lengthen.
Is this lengthened?
You tell me. Does that feel like it's as long as you can be?
I think so.
Okay, so now, can you hold there? Okay, now, so if these 2 points, need to get further apart. This can definitely get further away from you. So think, tuck your chin, and now imagine you're trying to pull your head off your shoulders, right? Trying to like lengthen your neck. Okay, there. Now where are you looking?
Down.
Yeah, okay, so stand up for me. So if we want the spine to be neutral, that also includes your neck and your head, right? So if you're stood upright, neutral now, just set your head and neck neutral. Where are you looking?
Forward.
Right, now keeping all of that arrangement, now hinge down to the same kind of position you would be in when you deadlift, and just let your head move with your body. Okay. So now where is your head? Yeah.
There.
Okay, so like and again, people will debate this and that's totally fine, but on the premise that we want to keep everything neutral, then what we're going to be doing is tucking the chin more and then lengthening here and stretching there. Okay, and stand back up for me.
With the bar or no?
Nope, without the bar.
Okay.
Okay, so the goal is make your spine as long as humanly possible. Okay, now that's going to put you in a better position to brace right from the get-go. Okay, but what's usually going to happen is no matter how well you hinge down to the bar, you're not going to do it perfectly. So that's why you kind of have to set that from that position, okay? So when you go down the bar and just add that extra step in, and I want you to deadlift it slowly. So like 3 seconds up. I want to see what it looks like. Because when you did those first couple, like right back at the start, your knees were way far forward, okay? So what was happening is the bar was having to go forward and around, and then the bar was not on your quads at all. Right, like, and you'll see this with most people, right? Like, if they're deadlifting a lot, they'll usually have like a load of hair missing on scabs and all this kind of stuff here, right?
Yeah.
And then there will be absolutely nothing here, right? I know you got a fancy new tattoo that that is on brand that you don't want to scar, right? But my point is, if we have all of these scars up here, why do we not have them here? Like, should the bar not be against you at that point? Most people would say that no, right? It should probably be against you the whole time. So let's get them here. Now, if your knees are too far forward, that's really hard to do because the bar's already out here. You've got to scoop it all the way back, okay?
Yeah.
So once you've lengthened that spine, deadlift it in slow motion, and the goal is to keep the bar against your legs the entire time.
All right.
Okay, a little bit better. Let's do one more. Did you feel yourself drop the hips before you went?
I think I was more focused on keeping my
That's
eyes
fine.
Straight, but I'll try again.
So
Step away.
Yeah, step away.
Step away.
I know it's monotonous and annoying, but it helps. At least for a while whilst you learn it, right? That's it. Keep your spine long as you hinge down. Okay, so we're a little bit rounded here. So let's go the other way. Other way. So for you, you would say arch, right? But here, arch here a little bit. Other way. There. Okay. Now chin down. Hold that for just a sec. Okay, this is better. Right, now do whatever you do to like get tension into the bar, which you know. Right, now lift in slow motion. There we go. Now the knees are getting out of the way and we're getting contact all the way through. Okay, good. How does this feel thus far?
Good. Feels good.
Okay.
I'm definitely not hitting my knees as much.
No, because they're getting out of the way, which they should do, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's your process for setting your upper back, your lats, or whatever verbiage you want to use? Like, how do you achieve that?
I just try to think of my back being completely straight. But I've always been bad at that.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave actually put a PVC pipe in my belt once, try to get me straight. So I don't know. I try to keep my, like you said, the chin tucked. To try to like just try to think. I've always thought about trying to be long. I just can never achieve that well. So
sure.
Don't really know how to be long because I've heard you talk about it enough being long. I don't know. I really just try to think in my head if I'm straight, but I'm sometimes not. So I don't really have like a thing I do. I try to keep the lats tucked. So that kind of helps.
Okay, how do you do that?
Just kind of like.
What is that? You know, people watching this might be like, well, what is he doing? Like, explain to me, if you were trying to teach me to deadlift, what is that you're doing to set?
Rather than keeping the elbows kind of flared out, it's really loose. Try to keep it tight and compact.
Right, okay.
Kind of keep
so rotating the elbows back,
up a little bit. Keep the elbows kind of like that.
Okay.
That way I can feel my lats kind of touching.
Good.
Here, like.
Okay.
Like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good start. Now, you're absolutely right. Let me just stand there. I'm going to demonstrate that. So hopefully this will come across on the video. It's not going to be too small. But basically what he's referring to is the lats have two functions in the deadlift that we can take advantage of, right? The first is that they rotate the upper arm like so. So we can put tension into them by rotating the upper arm like this, right? The other thing is that we need to do like a constant, like straight arm pull down type maneuver, and I'll show you why in a moment. But basically that's going to be what drags the bar back and keeps him against his legs, which is what we want, right? So when one grips the bar, right, we can have the elbows kind of pointing straight out to the side here, and there's not really any lat engagement there, right? Whereas if I go from this position now and I rotate the elbow back behind me, and I can get that pretty far, now that lat is tense. For instance, that's one of the job of the lats, is to do this, right? Also then look what happens to the shoulder when we do that. The upper arm rotates back and the shoulder pulls back and then creates tension there. It means we're not rounded forward through the upper back either. So when Noah says about setting the lats, that's what he's talking about there. So that's one of the roles of the lats. So I want you to go down and demonstrate that. So just add that in now. So you're gonna set the knees, hinge the hip, stay nice and long, grab the bar, and then you're gonna rotate those upper arms. And basically the goal is like point the point of your elbow to the wall behind you, whatever variation of that makes sense to you. And then I just want you to pause in that position, because then we can see why doing something else with the lats is also really important.
Like that?
That's it, get nice and long. You can do better than that. Okay, that's fine. Hold that for me. So Noah has got a pretty long torso, so it's much less exaggerating him compared to me. But what we can see is even for him in this start position, his shoulder and his scap here is in front of his hand and the bar in space, right? Come up from there for me. So what that means is that bar is kind of like a pendulum for you, right? Your arm is angled this way with what we hope is a heavy weight at the end, right? So since your shoulder is here and your hand is there, the bar wants to do that, swing out in front. And if you don't work correctly, then that's going to happen, right? So the other function of the lats then is to perform like a straight arm pull down. So you would set up on a cable machine and do that. We're going to do you do the exact same thing with the bar down there. So there's this and that. They're both using the lats, and they're both needed if you really want to make the torso rigid but also keep the bar against you. We put some bands pulling forward here just to emphasize politely the other role of the lat. So I want you to set up so that when the bar is on the floor, there is a little bit of tension in here, right? So now what you've got is in the bottom position, your shoulders are in front of the bar. You're going to set the lats by screwing the elbows back, but then the bands are going to be actively also trying to pull the bar away. So you have to perform that straight arm pull down process, whatever, even more to keep it glued to your shins. But then also even at the top, because even as your shoulder gets over the bar and there's no lever pulling it away anymore, they're still acting on you. And I'll show you in a sec why that's important. Take your time. Arch a little bit here, other way. When I say arch to you, that means this and your belly button push down to the floor. Rounding would be this coming up to the ceiling, okay? Right. Chin down. Okay, is there any tension on the band there?
No.
Okay, so let's set up like 3 or 4 inches back from there, and then just roll the bar into you.
Oh, okay.
There you go, we need a little bit there. Otherwise, they're just for show.
Yeah. All right.
Now I know you're gonna have to guess where your midfoot is.
Yeah. All right, we'll try that.
That's fine. So that's it. So the 2 steps he's going to do now are he's going to get these rotated back as hard as he can, which is also going to pull the shoulders back, which is great. And now, as he goes to initiate that rep, his lats need to actively drag the hand and his arm back towards his midline. So go slow motion. And then as he passes the knee, he still needs to keep doing that if he's going to lock out in the manner that we want. Okay, good. Let's do one more.
I'll just hold it here for now because it's going to
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you let go, it can catapult into the camera and make a great outtake. That's better alignment. Very good. Good. Well done. Okay. So let me show you why that lat thing is still important in the top. Okay. So if you stand here, Now, obviously, it's important in the bottom because your shins are going to start forward like this, right? So as the shin moves back in space, if we want the bar to also stay on our shins, it has to go back with it. Does that make sense? Okay, but then when we get to the top position and the hips start coming through and the shoulders stack over the bar, we still need to do that. And this is why. And that kind of forward angle of the arm is going to be way more obvious when I do it, because my shoulders are like way out in the ether over here. Okay, so start position, get a little bit of tension on there. Okay, so shins to the bar, lengthen out, elbows go back as far as we can, straight arm pull down. So obviously here, as the shins go back, the bar needs to be dragged back. Now look at the angle of my upper leg in this position. Where is it angled?
Your leg?
Yeah, my quad, my femur, whatever you want to call it.
Angled that way.
Right. So it's angled backwards.
Ah.
Yeah, let's go again. Let's do some isometric work today. So if I were to lift the bar up in a vertical line from this position, would it be against my legs?
It would miss your thighs.
Yes, it would. It would go.
Yeah.
And then how do I lock this out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's really common, right? You see a lot of people have to go into this like high degree of extension to lock the bar out. It's not because like their glutes are weak necessarily. It's because if we don't start pulling the bar back once we're here and close that gap between the leg and the hip and the bar's way out here in space, right? Mm-hmm. And my only choice then is to either like somehow get my hips out there, which isn't really going to work, or to round or arch back to kind of close that gap and get it in, right? Mm-hmm. So when you do 1 to 2 more, same thing now, but really focus on dragging it over your quads as well. Getting hot now, I know.
I'm drenched. Well, guess we'll just go there.
All right, chin down. Drag it back. Okay, good. Again, elbows screw back. And then set the tension in the lats like you're trying to pull the bar through your shin. And then don't let that go as you go over the kneecap and the quad. And then you can stand up straight as opposed to arching back at the top. Good. Okay, so that's your lats doing something. Good. Yeah. So let's talk about your upper back now. How that comes into the deadlift. Is there any thought process with that right now?
With
like
upper back?
Your traps, your rhomboids, you know, whatever you want to call it. Are you doing anything there?
No.
Okay, that's fine. That means less bad habits to get rid of, right? So we already spoke about like making the spine as long as you can. Now, we can kind of add to that by adding in making the shoulders as wide as you can. Okay, so if you just stand side on for me. So when you're down at the bar, the goal is like, imagine the 2 ends of your collarbone here. Get them as wide as humanly possible. Okay, so not as retracted as possible, as wide as possible. Like, you know, you're walking down the beach with your partner and you want to cast the most jacked shadow humanly possible, right? Like, or you're trying to get stuck in a door.
Yeah.
Right? That's generally going to put you in like a neutral position, right? So if you just put your arms out for me, the problem with being retracted, like we are in other lifts, right, is like you go ahead and squeeze back and together now, right? Shrug back hard as you can. Your arms get shorter, which is a problem in terms of leverages, but that's not really the main problem. It's like, you know, let's say you put your arms out and go squeeze back hard as you can. Let's say your max deadlift is 1,000 pounds, because it is, right? Now, if I put 1,000 pounds here and pull this way, you can't hold that position against 1,000 pounds, no matter how strong your traps are. So then you just got kind of like pulled out of it, right? Whereas if we go to neutral, which is wide, that's usually a position that we are capable of holding, right? And we see this all the time with like, if you get someone to do snatch grip work, you can put them down. If you get someone to do snatch grip work, where like the demands on the upper back are incredibly high, if they're someone who normally tries to stay retracted, they absolutely can't anyway, and they end up kind of finding that neutral position, right? Now, a lot of people will purposely go into thoracic rounding, makes the arms longer, makes the leverages a little bit better off the floor, right? Most people don't have the motor control to do that well. What I mean by that is when they do this, they also lose that. So like I wouldn't generally teach that. It will kind of happen when it's heavy enough most of the time anyway. But the other problem with that is if you start your deadlift like this, right? When you're locking out, not only do you have to get the hips forward, you have to do two things at once. You have to extend the thoracic spine to get upright and lock out the hips. And then what usually ends up happening is I go into thoracic rounding at the bottom to make it easier to get off the floor, and then I miss at the top because I can't lock it out. And you've got people like, go look him up, Konstantinov, I believe still has the heaviest deadlift ever beltless, like 930 pounds or something, right? If you're built like him and you can do like 40 chin-ups when you weigh 240 pounds or whatever he was, right? Like the upper back's probably not your problem, so you can get away with that, but the average person maybe not, right? So now when we go down to the bar, we got to add to your grocery list of things, right? You're gonna lengthen the spine in terms of lengthways, right? So crown of the head and tailbone are going to be long as you can. And then you're going to go lats, screw back and pull, and then widest possible collarbones you can get. So your spine is as long as possible this way and your torso is as wide as possible that way. Let's go with that. So it's almost like you're trying to use the bar as resistance, like, and spread your collarbones against it. Almost like you're trying to like lengthen the bar, for want of a better way, or spread the bar, I guess.
All right.
Sit. Now, take your time to lengthen out before you start setting the lat. You can do a better job. Yeah. So pull your tailbone away from the crown of your head. This there. And then you need to arch a little bit here. So whatever you think is long needs to be more arched here, a little bit more. And then this stays down. Okay, good. Now, elbows go back, lats get tight. Spread your collarbones as wide as humanly possible. I would say tuck your chin a tiny bit more. There you go. Look at your toes. I'm sure they've been freshly painted. And now, as you lift the bar, this length, so this longest possible spine and this widest possible shoulder girdle, hold those against the load. So your goal is don't let that get pulled out of position. Nice and slow. Nice. Okay. Step away, do that one more. This looks far better, by the way, so far.
Good. I'll get to watch it later.
To shins. Now, as you're hinging down, try to keep this as long as you can. Not because you can't correct it when you get down there, but you imagine this is like a 500-pound deadlift you got your belt on. The less stuff you have to do when you're down there, the better, okay?
Yeah.
Get in there. Okay, now lengthen out, which for you means arch the lower back a little bit, and then tuck the chin way more than you think you need to. Okay, this is good. Now spread here. Are these as far back as you can get them? There, now spread here. Good, and slow. Better. Okay, good. Okay, how is this feeling so far?
More structured at the top, which is good.
More structured. I like that.
Like good?
No, you're standing up stacked, which is a good sign. It means you've probably done a lot right leading to that point. So that's looking pretty good. I don't want to like get too in the weeds with this video because people will be asleep by the time we finish it, right? But let's go into now like the actual lift. So like your start position is pretty good now. It's at least far better than it was at the start. So let's just work with that for now and talk about the execution. Now, the deadlift has two phases. Like every compound lift that is multi-joint has two phases, right? In this scenario, the deadlift is basically a mini squat followed by a Romanian deadlift. Okay, the mini squat, which is the bit that gets off the floor, is what gets the knees and the shins out of the way so the bar can go up, right? Because otherwise it hits the shins and we have nowhere to go. And then when you do that, then there's basically a Romanian deadlift because that's the position you'll be in when you do that well. Let me show you if you stand here. So there's a knee bit and a hip bit. It is kind of that, you can kind of like boil it down that much, okay? So here. So to get the knees out of the way and the shins out of the way, they have to go back, which means the knees go back, which also then means my hips and my shoulders basically rise together, kind of like an elevator, right? Because if they shoot up, then that's just all the load going on here. And if this comes up, the shoulders rise too fast, that means the hips have come forward too. I'll show you. So this is ideally what we're kind of looking for. So we're here, and then the knees go back, the hips and the shoulders kind of rise together. If I were to hip it off the floor, basically just the shoulders rise. And the hips kind of stay. And then if we were to do like the world's ugliest stiff legs deadlift attempt, right? The hips would go, yeah, and that's how hamstrings get torn.
Yeah.
So for us to be strong in the bottom position, we need to get the knees out of the way, which is done by quads. So the first part of your deadlift is all quad. So you should love it,
yeah,
right? Because that's where you're super strong. You should never miss off the floor for your quad strength. You may well miss off the floor because of your torso strength though, but we can talk about that in another video. So what we want is phase one, which we'll practice, is hips and knees, so hips and shoulders rise together by the quads pushing the knees this way. So this goes back, this goes up together, right? And if you were to say, let's say you were to do a set of 10 where you only did that phase, right? So you just go like that. You should get the gnarliest quad pump because that should be the only muscle you're using, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to practice isolating that part. Okay, and how you know you're doing that well is by the time the bar gets to, let's say like top of your shin, patella tendon, whatever kind of landmark you want to use, your shin should either be vertical or only angled forward like the absolute slightest amount. Because that means they've moved out of the way, right? Mm-hmm. So let's try a couple of reps. And I want it to be painfully slow on the way up. I want you to pause when you get to that point, like top of the shin, whatever. Go back to the floor, set up again. And let's see what your shin angle looks like when you get to that position. So arch the lower back for you, that's the cue I would, and now basically look down at your toes. Bit more. There, now you're long, okay? Right, so elbows are set, lats are set, collarbones are wide. Now only the quads work and the knees go back in space.
Oop.
Okay, that's fine. Overshot it. So make sure imagine those resistance bands are still there, right? Mm-hmm. And painfully slow off the floor. Hold, and back down. Right, take your time, get long again. So for you, that means arch the lower back, tuck the chin down way more than you think. Right, hold there. Now, use your quads to drive your knees back to the wall behind you, bringing the bar up and back with you. Hold. Good, and back down. Let's go one more. See how shaky you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did legs recently.
Recently, like a week ago? Okay, yesterday definitely counts as recent.
I had to think about what day it was. All right.
Take your time. Knees go back and pause. Hold. Perfect. And down. There you go. So we're getting like vertical shin. That's great because what ends up happening then is the midpoint of your deadlift is basically the bottom of your Romanian deadlift. And let me show you, if you can have a rest. I mean, I'm sweating and I'm doing like half the work that you are. So what we're looking at, and you know, it's important for you to be able to see this as well. I know it's mainly for the viewers, but so here. So the knees go back, shin is vertical, give or take, and then we would finish the rep, okay? Now, if I were to do a Romanian deadlift down from the top, it should pretty much be the same position. So that's why I kind of summed it up as it's a mini squat and then a Romanian deadlift, because basically what happens is your quads get the bar off the floor, they get you to here. Once your shins are vertical, your quads don't really have the leverage to do anything for you anymore. So it's like, well, here you go, gives it to the posterior chain. In this scenario, it's mostly the hamstrings at this point, right? So it's quads onto the posterior chain, mainly the hamstrings. It's like, well, now they have to start really doing something other than holding your torso in position. So there's like a passing of the guard here. Then at this point, that's when your torso angle actually starts to change. So your torso, you should be aiming to have your chest still basically pointing at the floor when you get to that initial pause point there, because your hips should still be up and back like that. And then it's only once you get here that now you start getting more vertical. And the same thing also happens in a squat, for the record. So let's try that. Now, what I want you to do this time is come up, pause here. You're overshooting it just a little. I know it's a motor control thing that we won't fix today, but try and get it just below the knee. Pause, and then do a Romanian deadlift.
All right.
So we're just isolating the two phases, okay? Okay, so again, get the spine long, which for you means arch the lower back and tuck the chin way more. Elbows tucked, collarbones wide, lats engaged. So there's going to be phase 1, quads, push the knees back and pause, and then drive the hips through. So knees go back, pause, and then hips. Good, come back down. Now this time, do that, but also drag it up your quads.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's fine. We're throwing 100 things at you to think. Like normally there'd be a group of 4 or 5, whatever, like rotating through this, and it'd be like, well, I'll go, and then I get to watch 3 other people do it. You know what I mean? So like you're kind of getting thrown in at the deep end here, I'm sorry, but it's still working.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Okay, that looks. Pause, and now drag it over your quads. Nice. Okay, let's try and do that one more time. Take whatever break you need.
No, I'm good.
And then we'll put another 5 plates each side and test the system.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
Yep. Nice, well done. That's good. That's looking well. Just have a rest a minute. So have stand, seat, whatever. Now that now you're segmenting it well, and that's what obviously that needs to happen in like real time in a heavy attempt, right? But if any of you are like struggling to get your head around the like knee and hip bit, which everyone learns in different ways, different cues work. Another way that you can kind of visualize this is when I push at the start, so phase 1, when I want the knees to go back and the quads do most of the work, what I can do is think about primarily driving my toes kind of like forward into the floor. Like imagine you're doing like your leg drive on a bench press, right? It's like slide your foot that way, because that makes your quads push and extend the knee, which is exactly what we want to happen here, right? So it can be like, to get the deadlift off the floor, imagine you're trying to push your toes down and forward. So like if you were on a beach, the sand would sink like that direction. And then once you're here and you want the posterior chain to take over, now it's actually more like drive your heels down into the floor, because that's what will get your posterior chain loaded and coming through. Like for some people that'll work way better than trying to think like, where does my knee need to go in space? It can just be like drive the foot that way and then kind of that way, which gets you onto the point, which is too nuanced for today, that your foot pressure shouldn't be the same all the way through. But for now, keep it over your midfoot. So what you're doing now on the way up is correct, like for all intents and purposes, right? So now let's test it, and I want to see it on the way down. Because the goal would be to be able to create a mirror image on the concentric and the eccentric. And the main reason most people can't control the eccentric phase of their deadlift is because the blueprint they're using to lift the bar off the floor doesn't work on the way down, because it's kind of doing this like loopy thing around the knee and everything else, right? So, and I'm not saying you need to do this with like 495 or whatever, right? But as a teaching tool, it can be very helpful to control the eccentric of your deadlifts more. So we're here, knees go back, hips come forward, reset at the top, and then it's the same in reverse. So hips go back till we get to that kind of point, and then knees go forward. And then when you do that well, you end up in your deadlift start position. And that's kind of like the test of how well you're doing it. Now, again, I'm not saying you need to do that with 495, but for your technical practice, I would encourage you to do that, because you're missing out on half the opportunities to ingrain it if you're not doing the eccentric phase properly. And yes, it'll be tiring, but so is training.
Yeah.
So let's try that. This is where we get to see how good your Romanian deadlifts are. Is there any Romanians or anything in your program right now?
There were for a few weeks, and then they will probably bring them back in at some point.
Okay, sure. But that hinge you're doing from here to get to there, that's also your good morning.
Which is in my program.
Yeah, so. Right? The good morning is just a Romanian deadlift with the bar on your back. It's all training the same thing, which is the hip hinge. It's just putting the load in a different place, right? So this is why, for example, let's say you were to take on a client, or you were to coach someone or start training with someone. If they can't do a Romanian deadlift to like here without like rounding over or anything horrible like that, well, then they shouldn't be deadlifting from the floor, because they have to be able to get in that position on the way up of a deadlift from the floor. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So let's test it. I would like it paused at the midpoint, so just below the knee, on the way up and the way down.
All right.
So arch the lower back for you. Chuck the chin. Right, now elbows screw back, lats pull the bar into your shin, collarbones wide, and up. You could have got the knees further back there.
Now use your pause down at the bottom.
Pause on the way down, so hinge. Hold, and now push your knees forward to get to the floor. There, that's almost spot on your deadlift start position. Your hips are just a tiny bit low. So the only difference there would be we'd push the knees forward a tiny bit later. Let's try that again. More emphasis on the quads and the knees going back at the start. Remember, that pause is there on the way up purely for you to assess, where are my shins in space? Are they forward? Has the bar had to travel forward to get around them? Yes, I fucked up. I need to use my quads more. You have no excuse to underuse your quads.
Yeah.
Of all the people who should underuse their quads, you are not one of them. So let's try and do one more. Good. That's looking pretty damn good as a start position now. Right. Push your toes forward into the floor, hold. Way better. Now hips in. Okay, now reverse it on the way down. Bit more, hips back, hips. That's it, keep going. There. And then you would push the knees forward. That's fine. What I meant was, rather than stopping here, we want you to stop like kind of there. So same position you pause out on the way up. Because And then, no, this is important. It's good that you fucked that up, right? Because what we'll see then is if, let's say you finish Romanian deadlifting here and you push the knees forward too early, well, then you end up with the weight out in front of you when you get to the floor, which tells you overdid it. So like where you end up at the end actually tells you what you messed up. Like if you got to the floor and your weight was back on your heels and the shin was basically vertical and the bar was glued against you there, then that would tell you that you hinged back too far and you didn't use your knees enough to get it down, so on and so forth. So let's try one more, see if we can nail it. See if we can get one rep nailed. No pressure.
Yeah.
We'll just keep doing it until you do.
See if I remember it on Saturday.
That's right. I mean, it'll take time, right? But like setting up like this should hopefully help in the interim. That's good. Right, so for you, arch the lower back, tuck the chin. The goal is to get as long and wide as humanly possible through the torso. Set the lats 2 different ways. Right, knees go back, that's it, and up. That's it. Now do the pause lower than that on the way down. So below your kneecap. Hinge, 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 hinge. And now knees forward. Better, relax. There you go.
Feeling better on the way up. The way down's weird, but...
Yeah, but I mean, when's the last time you ever controlled the eccentric of a deadlift?
Probably never.
Yeah, and most people will fall into that camp, right? And I'm not gonna like say what people should and shouldn't do, but at least if we're trying to learn the deadlift, the eccentric phase is actually where more motor learning happens for reasons I won't go into. So like you're actually giving away the phase of the lift where most of your motor learning can happen. So like, at least for your lighter weights or like your warm-ups or whatever, or like you just do some extra light technical work outside of your regular deadlifting, doing the eccentric phase properly can really help ingrain that, okay? So I want to round this off now. I want you to just do one normal rep and we're just going to talk through the setup. So that
normal speed, 100%.
So that what people can do is basically just skip right to the last 45 seconds. Be like, cool, thanks guys, I'm out of here, right? So let's get you. So I basically want you to do the steps as I talk through them. Yeah, let's go with that. So we're gonna step up to the bar, and he's gonna step up to it in a manner that means the middle of his foot, his center of mass, whatever you want to call it, is directly below the bar, right? For Noah, it's about vertical jump stance, which is a good starting point for most people. Okay, so from this position, Noah is gonna bend his knees until the shins contact the bar. He's gonna do that without letting the bar roll forward, because that would push them away from his center of mass. Now, keeping that shin contact with the bar, he's gonna hinge down, keeping his spine as long as humanly possible, until he just so happens to be able to grab the bar. Don't think reach for the bar. And then once he's in this position, he's gonna lengthen his spine from tailbone to the crown of his head, which in his circumstance means he needs to arch here a little bit more and tuck his chin a little bit more here. Then he's gonna set the lats. He's gonna do this 2 ways. He's gonna rotate this upper arm and elbow back hard as he can, like he's trying to point the elbows behind him, and he's gonna drag the bar back into his shin like there's a bar attached to it. And then last but not least, he's going to spread his collarbones as wide as possible and think about getting his neck as long as he can, so the shoulders are down in the body. Then as we do the lift, he's gonna push the knees back out of the way of the bar so the shins become vertical, and then he can bring the hips through. That's it. And he can reverse it on the way down. And that is that is your blueprint for a respectable deadlift. Now there's probably about 1,000 things that we didn't cover. Foot pressure, rooting, bracing.
Which we have videos on.
Yeah, which we do, at least, but not specific to the deadlift, not that they change anything, but you should definitely, if you can link those up, the bracing and the rooting one at least, that would be super helpful. But at least from like an alignment and positioning standpoint, this is a good thing or a good blueprint for most to use to get their deadlift into a pretty good position. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you next time.